Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started and introduce our teams, starting with Blue Lion Labs. If you want to give a description of what your hack has been this time around.
Okay, I'll kick it off. So we have a team of four. I'm the leader of the team. My name is Jason DeGlint. I have a PhD in engineering from the University of Waterloo. What we're building as a team is a microfluidic chip to detect cyanotoxins in water. And I think we're the only Canadian team. So that might be one unique thing about us. I'm going to pass it on to Katie. And then after Katie, Hamid can just introduce themselves.
I'm Katie. I'm part of the Blue Lion team. I'm the COO of Blue Lion Labs, and I have a PhD in background in water quality and algae. Hamid?
Thank you, Katie and Jason. I am Hamid. I'm a master's student at University of Waterloo. My research focus is nanofabrication and microfluidic fabrication and biosensing. So in our lab, we are integrating the biosensing with microfluidic chip.
Awesome. And then I'll pass it on to the next team, Life Magnetics, if you would like to go next.
Sure. So I'm Kevin Hagedorn. My PhD is in optical engineering, but since 2015, we've been working on projects in RNA sample preparation. There's a particular interaction with carbon that's very short range, so we can do structural separations of carbon. The applications that we initially pitched were in actually synthetic mRNA drug manufacturing. If you remember from the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a lot of issues. We couldn't do at-home testing because of shipping and storage issues with RNA samples, and the vaccines need to be stored at -80. The underlying issue is that RNA is not a very stable molecule, and but there's a particular short-range binding interaction to graphene sheets that enables us to bind and store RNA for testing later using only calcium chloride. So we use calcium chloride, balance the charge, and we've been able to use this to demonstrate, for example, population surveillance for COVID-19. With a single jar of water, we can quantify COVID and all of its variants in wastewater samples. And also on our team here is Kayla, one of our scientists working on automating the process on a liquid handler system.
Yes, my background's in applied biology. I had a concentration in chemistry, and I'm currently going for my master's in data analytics. As you said, I've been working on automation of our process using a liquid handler. Going pretty well, almost there. And I hope that with the innovative technology that Kevin's been able to come up with in recent years, we can really help in the ways of wastewater, drinking water, and just other needs in the biological world.
Awesome. And then next up, we have curbing sediment.
Hello, I'm Helena Steiner. I am an assistant professor in landscape architecture, so my background is very much grounded in design. My collaborator, Ryan Winston, is a civil engineer who specializes in understanding sediment, particularly in relationship to green infrastructure. And so our project really asks, how can you challenge conventional design standards like a concrete curb to do more? And so we have come up with modifications to a concrete curb that can capture sediment prior to it entering catch basins and into waterways, so that the toxins can be removed prior to entering the waterways, when they are very difficult to take out of the water, very much like microplastics.
Thank you. And then Water Warriors.
Yes, hello. My name is Steve Chamberlain. I'm with Water Warriors, and at Water Warriors, we believe that water is the world's most valuable resource. We protect it by removing nutrients from water, specifically phosphorus and ammonia. And we accomplish this by using our Poseidon pellets, which we've been able to develop in conjunction with the US EPA. But a simple process that making contact with the water for us is the name of the game. So to allow the pellets to have the appropriate amount of contact time to absorb the nutrients and protect waterways from harmful algal blooms and other harmful effects when you have excess nutrients in the water.
And then next, RNA power.
Everybody, I'm John, the founder and CEO of a company called ECO. We're based in Austin, Texas, and we also have a presence in Cleveland, Ohio, which is why Marie Tay is here. She's our biz dev executive that we utilize and is focused on the Cleveland, Toledo area. So our company focuses on RNA. Thanks, Kevin, for talking about that. We chatted a little bit in chat on the previous thing. So we have a mobile and automated sampling unit that collects a large volume of water that's filtered over some things, and then we have a proprietary stabilizing chemical for RNA. That utilizes not the same technology as Kevin's, obviously, but something that does a good job of stabilizing RNA so that it gets shipped to us, and then we too can do all kinds of cool stuff with that. So traditionally, what we've launched on the product side for diagnostics is for looking at invasive species and endangered species, not just where they are, where they're going, but are they alive or dead? Are they about to spawn? Are they experiencing stress? Because the cool thing about looking at mRNA is you can actually look at what genes are actually turned on in a population, what they're actually doing, not just, DNA doesn't tell you that much, honestly, but RNA is really allows you to kind of get at what's going on. In addition to that, we have a partnership with a company called Veriset out of UC Berkeley. Gary, who's not here today, is a senior scientist with Lawrence Berkeley Labs, and their focus is on microbiome. And what's really cool is instead of going the NGS route, which is kind of the traditional way, they have a proprietary chip that's based on microarray technology to give a quantitative and reproducible analysis of the entire microbiome. So why does all that matter? Well, we're basically marrying these technologies to look at harmful algal blooms and the microbiome around them to find these trends come out whenever you start doing this research. My background is in cancer research, early stage cancer diagnostic development and biopharmaceutical development. What we always find is you start seeing these trends emerge. If the gene goes up in expression, this other thing happens, right? And once you can start doing a broad spectrum approach to that, you can create really cool forecasting models to determine not just where harmful algal blooms are going, but how toxic are they going to be and what is the actual risk. And that's where we add value. So I hope that wasn't too long. Thank you so much, Felicia, I'm sorry for being late. I had a little bit of technical difficulty there and some very loud children. So hopefully that doesn't get in the way.
Marta, did you want to add on to anything?
I think what's exciting is that we can capture genetic snapshots and really, John cracked the code, be able to capture and preserve mRNA, RNA, which normally dissolves within 20 minutes in water. So be able to capture that and then analyze it and retroactively, study it, like banking, although genetic snapshot is really grown. I mean, it's just a game changer, as one of the judges said in the quarterfinals. So I'm not a scientist, but I've talked to, with John and many scientists. We just signed an agreement with actually the Genome Center at UC Davis, but we're very excited about the new gold standard, which is going to be RNA for aquatic systems.
Awesome, thank you. And then I know Steve already introduced Water Warriors, but John, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm John Gradick, CEO of Water Warriors. Sorry I'm late. I had similar kid issues.
All good. And then last but not least, Agritech Ohio could not be here today, but they have a patented combined remediation, biomass and bioproduct production process. And that plant, it has to do with special biocrops to cost effectively protect Lake Erie by removing excess nitrogen and phosphorus from watershed soils, capturing large amounts of CO2 to combat climate change, and then making circular economy bioproducts from the harvested biocrop and collected waste material You can find more about Agritech Ohio, as well as all of our teams, next Thursday at our Erie Hack finals. Woo! Today we're here just to talk a little bit more about water entrepreneurship. And so I hope to see y'all all next week. But in the meantime, I want to ask our panelists why y'all personally decided to get involved with Erie Hack, and which issues of our challenge statements do you most connect with? And feel free to jump in whenever.
Maybe I'll start because that's
I'll be
my
bold.
third time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go
Marite,
ahead.
I was gonna say, we can be bold, let's go. Yeah, so why Erie Hack in general? One, I think the Great Lakes is one, from a business perspective, it's a prime area because the Great Lakes are a singular environment that's extremely interesting. The ecology is extremely interesting. They're incredibly sensitive. So there's all kinds of issues there. And it's an area also where there's historically a large amount of understanding of the kind of problems that affect water, right? You guys were the first ones to kind of deal with big problems with invasive species, for example. The harmful algal blooms in Erie are kind of renowned in a not great way. You know, these are kind of things that are in the loss of native species in the Great Lakes has been a massive issue. And it's something that has been studied so thoroughly in the region that it's something that is extremely attractive to us to kind of start moving into. And so we had met with Brian Stubbs over at Cleveland Water Alliance a couple of years ago. We started getting more and more involved with them and just absolutely love everybody involved. Brian's phenomenal. Cleveland Water Alliance has been phenomenal. We met Marite through them, and she's been phenomenal. So it's kind of it's become the more I'm involved with the region, the more I love it. And as far as when it comes to remediation and helping the area, there's a lot of interesting scientific questions to be answered. You know, my background was in oncology, and you know, some of my friends like to joke, like, you know, because my first company did an IPO with a cure for lymphoma leukemia. Well, I mean, it's a combinatorial therapeutic, you know how that works, but some of my French mentors like, dude, you did cancer research for 15 years. Why are you doing this? Why are you pilling around the environment? My joke has always been like, well, I already cured cancer. I wanted to try something hard. You know, like the working with an environmental system is more complicated and more difficult than working with a human body. And anybody who takes on that task is that is an Atlas level Herculean effort. I mean, I'm now screwing that Atlas, Titan, whatever. My metaphors are mixed clearly, but it is a massive effort to do, and I'm super pleased to be a part of it.
Hopefully we can get you to come up to the Great Lakes, to live in the Great Lakes region.
You want to start an office? I mean, we have an office with me, right? But we really want to establish an office.
Yeah, from day one of when we first started talking about retail, the goal was to grow enough to where we would have a permanent presence in the Cleveland or Toledo and have an office and have that basically be our business headquarters.
Kevin, I saw that you unmuted yourself.
Sure. So a couple of years ago when we got our first National Science Foundation Award, we're doing urine testing with Eurofins for kidney transplant rejection and prostate cancer testing. And as those guys previously noted, in urine in particular, the lifetime of RNA, well, I was going to say 28 minutes. They said 20 minutes. But we, with a one-step collection, we had about 30 days of stability, which was pretty good for if you're going to try and do at-home testing. Now, at the time, I was having a really hard time raising money. It was you had to, before COVID, you really had to explain what RNA was to people, and that was pretty annoying. I remember one competition we did in Detroit where
I'm laughing because I'm 100% on board. Yes, it is. Kevin, apologies to interrupt. I just had to champion exactly what you just said. I've been there. I sympathize.
Yeah, so we did Detroit Demo Day one year, and I was trying to explain that RNA therapeutics would be a big deal one day, and I lost to a hair salon and nail salon and urban farming collective. So at the time, it was pretty hard to explain this stuff. But now this year, so we partnered with Y Combinator for their online crowdfunding campaign. We raised about $1 million in the last 4 months, which is quite a bit better than we had ever done in the past. We've got 300 plus investors now in Michigan, and our recent project with CMU. So we were doing COVID testing with Central Michigan, and obviously we got great data for quantifying COVID and all of its variants with digital droplet PCR. And well, they wanted us to expand to look at other organisms, and so that's really how we found out about Erie Hack. Was we're using it as a platform to really find out what other tests are important to the community.
I think I found a kindred spirit finally in all this. There's not too many of us out there doing RNA work in the environment, Kevin. So hats off, man. It's good to find a kindred spirit in all this.
You can't imagine how excited I was as a biologist when you said I get to use RNA to look at like bacteria and cyanobacteria. Oh man, nerded out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Vera said is 150 species of cyanobacteria can be identified on the flagship.
Well, so each run, it covers all bacteria and archaea, but they can gate it to do whatever it is of interest, obviously, because that's tens of thousands of data points is a lot. And so that's why you have bioinformatics software to gate just, let's just look at the cyanobacteria. Let's just look at the things kind of related to cyanobacteria, and you start gating different ways of looking for trends and running algorithms to find trends that you probably wouldn't expect. Anyway, I see Kayla nodding, so I'm assuming you have a little bit of background in coding in R and dealing with bioinformatics nonsense, and so much fun, so ridiculous.
Actually, my current, I'm getting my master's in data analytics, and so
we're
currently and strugglingly going through R. And actually, when Kevin hired me on to do the automation of our robot, I started learning Python for the first time. Yep. So it's like the world that we're going to, and just data mining and organization and how much is really there is phenomenally excessive, crazy.
Yeah. And all that stuff is really my co-founder's wheelhouse. I design, I'm more translational biology. I mean, I'm a molecular biologist, but mostly I come up with was early stage cancer diagnosis applications, essentially. My co-founder, Erica, is the one who does all the bioinformatics and coding, because that was her PhD stuff. So anyway, Kayla, you should meet Erica at some point, because I'm sure you two would have a lot in common. Anyway, I apologize. This is off topic. I'll be quiet now. I'm too loud. People have told me that before. Mute is on.
I love how the connections are being built right now. But do the non-RNA teams want to, tell us a little bit about how you found Erie Hack?
Yeah, I can say that, we've been familiar with Erie Hack for a couple of years, and I've always been interested in it. And much like some of the other panelists had said, that the Great Lakes region, especially when you start talking about an important freshwater source, you'd be really hard pressed to find another area where you have such an important resource of fresh water. So for many reasons, that's a region that we really focus on. But then I'll also mention that any chance you have to be able to pitch, be able to tell your story, not only are you able to learn a little bit more about yourself, but also about, your message and, what your focus really is. So that's always something that we find valuable.
And, we could have named our company a lot of different things, like phosphoro, whatever, adsorption cycle, or, one of those names. But we named our company Water Warriors, and that's for a reason, because we're out there fighting this battle every day. And, a lot of the time it's fighting it with people internally, not our company internally, but, at the wastewater treatment plants, at different industrial sites where they just don't want to rock the boat. They know they've got a huge issue, but here we come with a solution, and they're like, we don't even want to bother you, hooking it up or solving this issue for us, because we pay to have it hauled away, and that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. And, we'll see you later. So, one thing that really appealed to us with the Erie Hack is, we met Max Herzog at WEFTech when we were in the Imagine H2O accelerator. And, we just, our solution was always for, reducing nutrient pollution in the water. And Lake Erie is renowned for that. So you could say it's in our, oh, here comes a bad pun, our DNA. I went there. So yeah, that's, I mean, we're all of us are really interested in, reducing and getting rid of all that nutrient pollution that causes algae blooms, loss of marine life, and poisoning our drinking water.
Helena, Jason, do y'all want to jump in with how y'all found Erie Hack?
You want to go, Helena? Or you have?
It doesn't really matter either way.
Go for it.
Oh, me? Okay. Okay. Well, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I found out about Erie Hack from Instagram. My coworker had reposted something from somewhere, and I followed those breadcrumbs. And what appealed to us is, I think, some of what's happening here, the ability to kind of meet like-minded people that are passionate about water quality, that are passionate about the Great Lakes, that are passionate about trying to make a difference. Ryan and I get to sit around and be passionate about curbs together, but seeing if there are any other curb enthusiasts was something that, or ways to foster kind of new connections beyond the bubble that we've already established was very appealing to us. We're not maybe in a place that some of the other teams are in terms of kind of where you are in your project development. And so we really had our proof of concept tests, and then COVID happened, right? As we were trying to start to, bring it to conferences and start to kind of see what we could do with that. And so we're just really trying to now kind of put the wheels back on and see how we can continue to propel the project forward. So this was also a really great opportunity for us to see how, if we could win, the prize money, it could be a really big advancement for this project that we could also probably use to leverage additional funding. And I think coming from a design background and a landscape architecture background, I am constantly talking to students about Lake Erie and about the different problems that are happening there. I'm leading my 4th studio that looks about called Habitat for Hard Places, that looks at how we can make new fish habitat along the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland. My seminar is focused on the Great Black Swamp and that whole, the whole kind of transformation that's happened in that area. So even though we're coming at it from slightly a different perspective than maybe some of the other teams, I think that our passion is all in the right place, and it's something that's exciting to see.
I guess I'll go. So actually, my background, I never knew much about water or knew anything about algae. I did a background in engineering, electrical computer engineering, and a master's. In 2016, I started my PhD, and I moved from Vancouver to Waterloo, Ontario, and I wanted to work on water-related issues. And then I learned about algae, and I didn't even realize that harmful algal blooms were such a big thing on Lake Erie. And I was just blown away, and I went on this personal journey of realizing what algae are, their impacts on drinking water, recreational use of water. And that really inspired me to do my PhD. During my PhD, I met Katie, and together we co-founded Blue Line Labs. It was during, I believe I was at a conference. I think Max Herzog's name came up. I think I met Max at a conference, and he let us know about Erie Hack. And then Hamid came to Canada to do research in microfluidics and water quality to support this project. So we thought it was a perfect shoe-in for the competition this year. Katie or Hamid, I don't know if you want to share anything. I shared some of my personal story. You're welcome to do the same or not, but definitely if you want to add anything, feel free. Nope.
I don't know that I really have much to add from the Blue Line business and why Blue Line is a team. Personally, I grew up in Ontario, surrounded by the Great Lakes. Used to go and, swim in them, play in them, admire them. So it's just been a really nice fit to work on a project that is looking at helping to, solve a piece of the puzzle with regard to the water quality problems in Lake Erie. Just some personal motivation.
Yeah, but what really brought Katie and I together is the kind of the forming group of Blue Line was that we both, well, Katie, lifelong passion, and me, a new passion of water quality and believing that everyone has the right to know if their water is clean and safe to drink. And so that really what was kind of the kind of the initial push for us to get started on the project. And then Hamid joined to help us with microfluidic fabrication and biosensing.
So can I add something here? I just want to say, I myself, I have grown, I'm born and raised near a lake, so my childhood have been entangled with the water memories. And in Middle East, in Iran, where I come from, the water is really a big issue. And there is studies that in 50 or 40 years, we will run out of water to plant our crops, to drink water. So it's a big issue in our country. And I mean, besides in my country, it's a big issue for the world. And I mean, we don't have anything more important than water. And when my professor Mala suggested that we have a project related to water where microfluidic device and water meet, so I was really excited. And then I met Jason and Katie, these two people. We were really good. I mean, we had the plan and we had all of this stuff. So we started working and it's going really good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for sharing how you found Erie Hack and the value of water as well. We've also, just in the past 10, 20 minutes, we've gotten to see connections form over, RNA. And so with that being said, how has Erie Hack impacted your personal or professional path? And, what kind of professional connections did you foster throughout the competition? Again, feel free to jump in.
We really I think we learned quite a bit actually. When we actually at the beginning of this month, I would say that we were not really aware of how much of a need there was for PCR testing in water quality. And I mean, like I said, when we were originally funded, we were solving problems with RNA shipping and storage related to therapeutics and RNA manufacturing. There's key issues with manufacturing therapeutic drugs and in shipping and storage and processing those drugs that we were intended to address. It was only through this event that we were really able to identify most of the applications that we're going to be presenting. It's everything that we've learned has been new stuff, which is really great because learning how to apply this to more than just the COVID testing that we've been doing with Central Michigan University for population screening. We were intending for that to be basically the only application that we had was quantifying COVID and its variants in populations. But now I think we've seen how many other applications there are that we could apply this to.
Yeah, and thanks, Kevin, for going first. And we really should talk more. So, we went into this kind of knowing about it. Marite has pitched for Erie Hack before with other teams. So she was really excited about, when this comes up, we need to do it. It's really important. We need to do it. And since coming on board, she's been setting up all of our meetings with mentors and things like that. It's either and we've met a broad swath of mentors that are all extremely interesting, extremely helpful. Some are technical, some are not technical. They've come from all different areas. And so those connections don't just help us make sure that whenever we pitch, we reach the broadest audience possible and we don't get too technical, because gosh knows I can get very technical if I have to, or if someone allows me to. It's going to be a nerd rant with a bunch of Latin words, and nobody's going to understand it except for people like Kayla and Kevin here. So having that experience and getting to understand, well, what do these people think? Because in the past, EQO, we founded the company in 2018, and we've won startup competitions before. We've won Mass Challenge, the Platinum Award for that. We've won this one in New York, NYSERDA. We've won a couple others. And, usually you're pitching investors, and that's fine. But I know how to pitch to investors. I know how to talk to scientists. But talking to operators is something that we've had to figure out as a company over time. And so having a condensed amount of operators to talk to from the different municipalities in the region, and being able to figure out, what do they need to hear? What do they need to listen? What is it that they're interested in? What keeps them up at night? With a scientist, I can be like, look, this is really cool, and here's why, right? And we have a very different thing from Kevin, because Kevin, obviously, if our solution buffer would not work well as it wouldn't do great with a strong RNA therapeutics. You have to do a pretty serious buffer exchange on the back end, but that's another story. So that science talk I can do, the investor pitch thing, I could do my song and dance and for money, and that's fine. But getting to meet all the awesome operators and the people in the Great Lakes is a boon for us as a company.
Right. And I would add, it really gives you the awareness. And I think not only in the region, but I think this is going to be shown internationally. It gives you the awareness of those great technologies, all our solutions. My perspective is global brand management and global business development, and I see it all the time. We do have all the solutions today to avert the biggest disasters for humanity. We do. On the blue side and the green side, what we don't have is being able to scale up those solutions and have the funding to commercialize them. So, that's what my passion is, and the Erie Hack is a wonderful venue to give exposure to all those amazing scientists and inventors and thinkers out there that just need the commercialization and the marketing and business development support.
I can jump in. It's been really helpful for us. I think one, like it's already been mentioned, to kind of interact and digitally network with a whole new cohort of people, but also we've presented this together and independently to different crowds, mostly within our kind of silos of expertise, mostly I would say also probably within kind of academic circles. So it's really interesting to kind of put it in front of a broader audience and people coming from different perspectives and with different agendas in terms of how they approach water quality and management of water, and to hear the different types of questions that we've gotten. So some of the questions have kind of been a little bit of what we've gotten in the past, but others have really asked us to kind of rethink and reframe how we're presenting our work and how we can make sure that we're addressing concerns that people might have well ahead of time, when instead of like leaving it for the question and answer period and integrating it into that proposal.
I can jump in quick. Like for us at Blue Line Labs, Erie Hack has really helped us. Like the questions from the judges has really helped us narrow in, like, where are the gaps in our communication? What are we not communicating well? What can we not claim? So that has been, just that feedback has been really, really valuable. And then seeing what other people are working on, it's inspiring. And it's just encouraging that there's many brains working on in this space. So that for us, I would say, were the two key things so far.
John and Steve, do y'all have anything else to add? from?
I think really I just echo everything, the points that were made by the others. It's certainly worthwhile, and there's many different avenues that you can gain something from it, and it does have a feel of collectively kind of tackling a problem, in understanding the different regions and cities, and even in the last semifinal pitch, just really knowing, the impact that you can make for the people that call that region in particular home.
Awesome. Thank y'all. We're going to transition a little to, beyond Erie Hack. So what are you hoping to take away from this whole experience, besides prize dollars? And when it comes to like prize dollars and support services, how do you plan on utilizing that?
I think the most important thing for almost everyone here is just recognition, recognition of the work we've done, how it applies to this problem. And, for us, the prize money is secondary because, it's more about the exposure. It's more about getting the name out there and getting people familiar with you and your technology. So, yeah, I mean, we're really happy to be a part of this.
And just to piggyback on that, certainly the prize dollars, I mean, we're ultra focused on getting projects in the water, right? Data is very important. It's a very data dependent industry. And so the opportunities to be able to get more projects in the water, to be able to collect more data, to be able to share that data, is certainly what we're focused on in utilizing the prize money.
I would say almost, sorry, Katie, I'll be quick though. Almost exclusively the reagents used for the types of testing that we do are manufactured overseas at this point. And so we're not replacing anyone in terms of capabilities or diagnostics. We are selling them the reagents. So we're looking forward to making the connections that we need to work with the existing stakeholders, and rather than replace something that they're doing, partner with them to replace reagents that are currently being manufactured overseas. So.
Yeah, I think for us, kind of piggybacking on the answers for the last question, is getting some of that critical feedback from the mentors that we can then help to improve our offering and what we're bringing to the table, is really, really helpful for us to take away from this, especially through the multiple rounds, and making it through to the final, as you really get a lot of that feedback from the mentors. And then in terms of utilizing the money that we get from this, it's really going to help us take our technology from the lab bench and out into the environment, which is a really critical next step for us. So I think those are two main ways that will really benefit from this.
Yeah, so this is going to be at specifics. I'm going to put in my CEO hat here. So this project, this Erie Hack is part of a longer term project. So first, we received some funding from NOAA to do a validation of to create and validate some probes that are specific to toxins, and then also to show that we can do the whole microbiome stuff, and basically just we have samples from pre and post Toledo, Bloom, and Detroit that we're going to, now we have funding to do that. The next step is to gather some additional data along the Western Basin to determine the best spot for what's going to be phase 3, which is the installation of automated samplers at 3 locations in the Western Basin to look at early stage blooms and then start creating a really strong forecasting. Year 1 of that would be funded by NOAA or GLRI. We're in talks with both of them, and then in years 2, 3, 4, then we start looking at partnerships, and we're already kind of talking to municipalities about how you combine those regions to get funding for a long-term installation effort. So that's the very boring businessy side of what the answer is. The other side of it is what we get out of this is, even if we don't get that money, we'll find a funder. We have a lot of irons in the fire. The other value is with the mentors that we're meeting here and the connections that we're making here, it's really exciting because then we can start taking, technology to the next level. We can start meeting potential prospects, other people, if it's not funded directly by Erie Hack, maybe somebody else we met during Erie Hack will fund it. So those are the kind of things that, this is valuable for us, and not just, but that's the very specific, this is our, our 4-year plan or whatever. So sorry to be boring that time, but that's the business side of things.
Well, I would add, though, that we are dealing with very, very long sales cycles, and the Erie Hack prize would really help us speed up the project and, help us do, the additional sampling probably, very quickly versus 3 to 6 months from now. So it will make a big difference to have the prize money to accelerate the project, I would say.
That's
John.
an excellent point, Marite. The biggest hurdle that we find as a business is long sales cycles when dealing with municipalities and regional water groups, and the resistance to adopt new technology, and the requirement essentially to have a partnership with a civil engineering firm. So we have a lot of partnerships with civil engineering firms. So you got to find the right one in the right place at the right time to do the right contract, and they usually basically already have to have it awarded, and it can't be CapEx. There's just a million things to deal with, and then even then you bill them, they're going to bill the client. That's net 60. You're going to get that 30. So now you're looking at, you do the work, you're a startup, and you're not going to get paid for 90 to 120 days. That's the reality of what's going on. But $30,000, we can just go do the work.
The water cycle is incredibly long. We started out with a biomedia project that we sold as a CapEx expenditure to municipalities and industries, and it was fantastic when something came in, but my God, did it go dry for years when it didn't. And it's so slow for adoption. It takes, from what we've seen, about 4 to 5 years for them to even start considering it. And it's probably, Steve, chime in when you have a chance, but it's been incredibly grueling.
Yeah, and I think, finding outlets, just like what Erie Hack provides, to be able to try to bridge that gap, because there are peaks and valleys when it comes from a revenue standpoint, and, being able to engage in something that, even if you don't receive prize money, you are still able to make some progress, whether it's through the connections or the mentorship or other benefits that you receive from it. So it's great to have these type of outlets and be able to take advantage of them.
I would echo a lot of what's been said about, obviously, all of the different connections that we've been able to make, and even kind of just getting it in front of a lot of people that work in water infrastructure around the region is really helpful for us as well, just because we ultimately we'd like to be involved in the construction and the testing of one of these, but at the same time, we kind of just would also like to see one built so we can really understand if it works in the real world. In terms of prize money, we did our initial proof of concept for probably less than $5,000, including funding students. So we're pretty scrappy. And if we were to get it, we could definitely figure out how to leverage it in a way that could propel the project into the next round of answering a lot of the questions that we just don't have the answers to yet, because we're not able to do field testing.
Thank you all for your insight. And the next few questions I have, the next two, they've kind of been answered, but I'd love, for anyone to just jump in and to expand on why it is important that we continue to invest in a water innovation ecosystem.
So I want to go on a soapbox. So Bob posted something about the Flint water crisis, right? And they finally settled that whole thing. Thank God. And so I graduated from Kettering University, which is on University Ave in Flint. I started in 2015 when it really took off, the whole crisis. So I saw those families, those people. I worked with the kids as I did some stuff in the community that literally had rashes. People had died, and it shouldn't take something like that happening for people to care about water health. And one of the big things about what I think a lot of this does in talking about Lake Erie is not only cyanobacteria, but bacterial species and other things that we can expand upon. There was also a Legionella outbreak at that time, and they weren't able to catch it before they gave the boil water advisory, which then we all know concentrates lead in the water. And so not only do you have a bacterial outbreak, you have a lead poisoning problem. So if we were able to, revolutionize and solve this issue where we can, like with our product, we'd be able to detect very early that there is something being made for Erie Hack cyanobacteria, but also I've talked to him about, bacterial species in general. We could just eliminate a lot of the problems and a lot of the unnecessary diseases, deaths, uncomfortableness that happens through this. So it's so important for just the general population, but everybody who is ever going to be affected by water, we drink it, we bathe in it, we cook with it.
Yeah, to build off what Kayla was saying, if you look at it from just a purely, let's just look at the problem. The most vital ecosystem on the planet is aquatic ecosystems. I would argue that for humans, freshwater ecosystems are the most vital ecosystems on the planet for our continued survival and health and well-being, because it's absolutely required for life. And right now, we barely know what goes on underneath the water. There's a whole dearth of life down there, not just HABs. Our goal from the get-go is to create a whole macrobiome solution. The microbiome in your gut, what's going on in there, it impacts your entire health. Everything that goes on in the water impacts your water. And the water impacts your health because we all need water. So I think it's vital for anybody who wants to do something new. Why not freshwater or marine? Water is the only thing that really matters as far as ecosystems go. Well, no, that's not true. Tons of ecosystems matter. I'm just saying water is the most vital ecosystem that for humanity. And sorry, my dogs are barking.
All right. And I want to ask this last question, and since we're running out of time, but other than funds, what kind of support would help ensure entrepreneurs like you all to be successful in bringing your innovations to life?
Free PR. You know what I mean? Like just lots of engagement on Twitter and social media sites, as well as LinkedIn, with the Cleveland Water Alliance, as well as all the companies involved. We can make this bigger by just participating on social media.
Good connections really seem to be important and oftentimes a little bit difficult to come by. I would say like one of the big things that impacted us a couple of years ago was we added EMA Partners and Andy Rutter to our board. They do they're investment bankers, but they've exited a number of life science tools companies, and there's really not a lot of life science tools is pretty specific. When you go into something like RNA testing, it's important, but it's really specific. And everyone here, I feel like, probably has something that's really specific. And finding like the right connections is really important for really all the technologies have their own underlying nuances that just a general sort of maybe MBA student or something is not going to really understand. And so finding the right people and the right connections is really important.
Yeah, and even to build on that, especially when you're taking the technology out into the real world, and it is difficult to find somebody that's willing to stick their neck out and give it a whirl. And I think we've all kind of been able to find some people that you just know that it's not going to be accepted and it's not even going to be part of the conversation. But then are people out there, and sometimes they're tough to find, but they are willing. They're willing to embrace innovation. They're willing to try something new. And that can be, across many different types of technology. So being able to, build a good list to know here are the people that are out there that are willing to try something new and be a good partner through developing that innovation or bringing that innovation to life in the real world, I think is super helpful from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
And Helena, you were going to say something and then we'll wrap up afterwards.
I was almost going to say the same thing, that basically it's like, I think that these competitions do a good job of bringing fresh perspectives to the table. And maybe that includes kind of agencies or places that aren't always willing to deviate from the norm. And I think the more exposure that continues to happen to get, I don't want to say weird ideas in front of people, but ideas that are kind of deviate from the typical standard way of approaching solutions, that we can help to change those minds slowly but surely. But the more kinds of competitions or Erie hacks that we can have, the more that people can look forward to seeing what's coming next.
Thank you. And it's 6 p.m. And so thank you for everyone that's tuning in. And thank you to all our panelists for volunteering their time to be here. Be sure to cheer on these teams at our finals next Thursday, starting at 2 p.m. And since we've talked about social media a little bit and outreach, you can find CWA and Erie Hack on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I'm sure you can find all of these other teams on all these platforms as well. And you can find more information about finals through Twitter, LinkedIn, our website, eriehack.io. Does anyone have anything to add in the next few seconds?
It was nice meeting y'all.
Great meeting you guys and gals.
That was great. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank y'all.
Thanks so much.
Bye.